You know what's worse than London rent? Getting two tax bills for the same year. One from New Zealand, one from the UK. Both absolutely certain you're theirs. That's dual tax residency, the admin equivalent of being in two relationships, and both partners are the jealous type with calculators. Most Kiwis think tax residency flips the moment the plane leaves Auckland. Yesterday, New Zealand resident. Today, sweet as. I'm UK resident now. Probably. But there are some who still get caught out. New Zealand and the UK both run their own rules. They don't talk. They don't coordinate. And in your move year, it's surprisingly easy to accidentally be resident in both. To stop being a New Zealand tax resident, two things matter. First, the famous 325 days. You need to be outside New Zealand for more than 325 days in any 12-month period. Days don't need to be in a row. Quick trips back are allowed. They just chew into your total. But here's the twist some people miss. Before that, IRD looks at your permanent place of abode, PPA, which is a fancy way of saying, does New Zealand still look like home? It's not just, do you own a house? It's, do you have a home in New Zealand that's actually available for you to live in? Is your partner or are the kids still there? Are all your main ties, banking, community, life admin, still in New Zealand? You can be drinking warm pints in London for ages and still be New Zealand tax resident, if on paper your life is basically saying, yeah, I still live in Hamilton. Now, while New Zealand is emotionally processing the breakup, the UK does the opposite. It moves fast. The UK uses the Statutory Residence Test. Sounds terrifying, but it's basically, how many days are you in the UK, plus how many ties do you have here? Work, accommodation, family. If you move to the UK and start full-time work, you'll usually become UK tax resident pretty quickly, often from the day you land, even if you haven't hit the magic 183 days yet. And then there's the fun bit. The UK tax year runs from 6th of April to the 5th of April the following year. If you're resident at any point, the default is, cool, let's pretend you were resident from 6th of April. So you could arrive on the 1st of December and, on paper, be UK resident for the whole year. That's horrifying, which is why split year treatment exists. Split year treatment basically says, all right, we'll split that tax year into a non-resident bit and a resident bit from when you properly arrived. It doesn't fix everything, but it stops the worst kind of nonsense. So when does dual residency actually happen? It's usually when New Zealand still thinks you have a permanent base there, and the UK sees you living and working there in a settled way. If you've got a New Zealand home you can realistically move back into, you're bouncing between countries, you're living and working in the UK, then under domestic rules, both countries can claim you at the same time. Does that mean you're taxed twice on every dollar? Not usually. There's a double tax agreement between New Zealand and the UK that decides which country gets first shot, and the other one normally gives credits. The real problem with dual residency isn't double tax, it's double paperwork and double complexity. And sometimes the worst of both worlds. You end up paying a higher tax in whichever country has the highest tax rate on each type of income. So, how do you avoid starring in that movie? Before you leave New Zealand, decide what you're doing with your home, properly. Sell it or rent it out long-term so it's clearly someone else's place. Leaving it empty for when we come back or popping it on Airbnb is basically sending IRD a love letter. Make sure your real-life story matches the story you want the tax rules to tell. Belongings moved, banking shifting offshore, everyday life anchored in one place. When you hit the UK, track your days from day one. Assume you're UK tax resident the moment you actually move here to live and work. And for the love of tax forms and all that is bureaucratic, don't base your plan on what a mate at the pub reckons worked for them, because your mate might be in two relationships and doesn't know it yet.